there, bar fans. How are we today? This is Lynn. I am coming to you to talk about week 2 and the Chicago Bears. Today, my jersey is Kyle Long. I know he's not on the team anymore, but I really liked him. I thought he was really great. And I didn't have any offensive lineman jerseys, and I didn't have any white ones, and I really wanted one. I've always wanted a white jersey. So I got one. So I've had this one for a while. But yeah, he had to retire after last year because his body just wasn't going to cooperate. Sometimes that happens with football players. If you remember the 80 Bears, our quarterback, or 85 Bears when we won the Super Bowl was Jim McMahon. He had a body like that. He was a good quarterback, but he was a China doll. You know what I mean? He got hurt all the time. Not like this guy. How do you get there? This guy, Walter. He is awesome. And, somebody asked me about this. This is actually a picture that was put on canvas. This is canvas. This is not a poster or anything like that. It's just really freaking awesome. And if you see how high he is up the ground, the lowest guy's way down here on the ground, and he's way up there. So, Walter, we were lucky, our generation, we got to watch him. And even though the Bears weren't good until 84 and 85, and, in Walter's early years, it was all Walter. It really was. That's how come he got all those yards, because we had no offense. But anyways, let's talk about the Chicago Bears 2020. We won last week. We know that in the last minute. I know a lot of people probably out there are thinking that Mitch is not our starting quarterback. I'm just going to give a little my opinion about this because, first of all, it's my show, and I'm going to anyways. But I've been saying this now for over a year. This is going on year 2. That, is Mitch Tom Brady, Terry Bradshaw, Joe Montana? No. But can he be a good quarterback to get us to the Super Bowl? Yeah, if, and this is a big if Matt Nagy, our coach, lets Mitchell be the quarterback he is. Matt Nagy last year, because the year before, we went 12-4. And Mitchell did pretty damn good, right? He was running around. He was throwing on the run. He was doing this and that. Last year, you didn't see a lot of that because Matt Nagy wants him to be a pocket passer. He wants him to sit in there and scan the field. That's just not his forte. He's more of a move him around and stuff like that. So Nagy, it didn't seem like that was happening. He called a pretty good game last week, Nagy. I have problems with his play calling. Not the only problem I have, but we'll go on to that later. But it seemed like by the fourth quarter, I don't know if Nagy just changed things up or Mitchell said, I'm going to be me. And look what happened. We came back and won. He was running around, whipping the ball. So Nagy, I was reading, they said now Nick Foles, our backup, is a pocket passer. He sits there and he does the field and then he throws. But, if that's what you want, then you might as well put him in because that's not Mitchell. That's not what the problem is that he only played 1 year of college football. So, they didn't get enough on him. I don't know what they saw enough to draft him over Patrick Mahomes and Watson out in Texas, but I'm not going down that road. I like Mitchell; he's our quarterback, so I'm sticking with him right now. Would I have liked Patrick Mahomes? Hell yeah, but we don't have him. So if Nagy lets Mitchell be the quarterback I think he can be, then I think he could be pretty decent, a reliable, good. Like I say, he's not going to go to the Hall of Fame, but if he takes us to a Super Bowl or playoffs, I'm fine with that. Aren't you? Of course. But Nagy's got to let him do that. Nagy wants to be this guru of calling offenses and stuff like that. He wants to be compared to his, predecessor, because who did he, Andy Reid he worked with, and then some other people. So he wants to, and he's not. First of all, I will say Matt Nagy cannot manage a clock. I was watching a game last night, if you watch the Cincinnati Cleveland game, that Cincinnati new coach, he can manage a game. He was calling timeouts at the end of the first quarter at the right time and at the end of the second quarter. Even though the game wasn't that close, the score looks like it was, but it wasn't. But he was calling. Nagy, he can't do that. He's terrible with game management. And he hasn't gotten that much better this year. So we'll see. I'm hoping. But Mitchell has got to be left to be Mitchell. And I will say the encouraging thing from last week was that we ran the ball a lot, and Nagy has to run the ball. You run the ball, you get yards, that opens you up for passing. It's just a fact. If you watched last night's game, Cleveland was running up and down the field, and then Baker Mayfield could throw a long pass because they have to respect the run. So, and Nagy did not do that last year. I mean, we know that. And he got rid of our running back from the year before, which for the life of me, his name is right out of my head. But Howard, right? Anyways, so week 2, opening in Soldier Field, unfortunately, unless something's changed, no fans yet. But I do know, I read an article that the president, George McCaskey, who I must tell you, we are pen pals. We have written each other. I wrote him a letter about 5-6 years ago when the Bears were just bad, and they had some players suspended because they'd taken drugs for enhancement. Remember that? That was the lowest to us. So I wrote him a letter, and I wrote quite a few of them, and I just kept. It was the same letter, but I kept mailing them every week. So I knew he'd get it, and he finally did. And he wrote me a letter, handwritten letter back from the president of the Bears, George McCaskey. I have it hanging on my refrigerator downstairs. It's pretty dang cool. And then he put me on the Christmas list. I know, is that cool or what? But anyways, but I read that he has a plan. They put a plan together so they could have 10,000 fans or something like that. And they submitted it to the city of Chicago. Apparently, it's not up to the governor. It's up to the city. Wherever the team is playing, they have the right. So it must be the mayor, that new mayor, and I forget her name, Lightfoot. I was going to say Gordon Lightfoot. I think it's Lightfoot, but I'm not sure. But she has the ability to say, yeah, you can have fans. So George McCaskey was saying, we're really hoping that if it's not the first game, maybe the second or third game, they're going to start letting us put fans. He said, because I think we have a really good plan and we'll keep people separated. Last night in the game, they had, 6,000 fans, and they were all over the stadium. And Kansas City was the same thing the week before. So, because the Bears love fans. The Bears players feed off that. So it's kind of important. Whether it's one or none, we need fans. So, again, we're playing the New York Giants on Sunday at noon, your time. Vegas time, 10 a.m. And Daniel Jones is the second-year quarterback for the Giants. So he's still unknown what he can do. They're still a growing team, too. They have a new coach. And so I saw him play last week, didn't play so good. But to be honest with you, again, we had no preseason games. So in my opinion, a lot of these teams aren't going to really gel until the third or fourth regular season game because they had no preseason games. Like our defense gave up, my son told me this, I did not know that, since the 60s. It was the most yards they had ever given up defensively in one game since the 60s. And I said to him, well, it's because they didn't have any preseason games and real training camp. You know what I mean? So it's going to take a little while for them to gel. Good news is, though, Robert Quinn is going to be playing. God willing, nothing happens from today till Sunday, but he had full practice today. Mack, half practice, limited it. Hicks was out sick, but he's better. So I didn't see any scratches for this week's game. So if we can get Quinn in there, that might free up some Mack time, and maybe Mack can get to the quarterback, or maybe Quinn will with Mack being in there. So, but Mack has got a sore knee, so he's not 100%. But the secondary, in my opinion, did really good last week. So because we're young there too. So we got a lot of new guys. So it's going to take a time to gel as a team. Offensively, we ran the ball well. Mitchell obviously didn't do good until the fourth quarter, but I just have a feeling he's going to do better this week. So my opinion is they should win this game if they don't beat themselves. That's the only way I see the Bears losing this week is if they beat themselves, which we know if you're a Bears fan, we've seen that way too many times. How many times have we seen them beat themselves, right? So let's hope that we got to get the penalties down. We had quite a few of them. I think we had 8 last week, and again, that's because there's no preseason. So we got to get those penalty downs. You can't win divisions and championships when you have 8, 9, 10 penalties. You just can't. Okay, so we got to work on that. And our line looked good last week, our offensive line. So let's hope each week they get better, right? So I look for this to be a good game. I pray that they win. I want them to win every week. I have been a fan. A real quick story. Of course, people who are watching this already know this story. So because there's nobody who doesn't know me that isn't watching this, all 5 of you. How I became a Chicago Bears fan was in high school. Got back from church. And then we only had 2 TVs in the house. The big TV was down in the family room, and then the 9-inch, or was it 13, but it was small, with the rabbit ears, was in my parents' room. So my dad, of course, Sunday, he worked pretty much 6 days a week. He got to pick what he wanted, and he always watched. God, what was it with the books? Frasier. I forget when they would do the movies. Like. Phantom at the Bottom of the Sea, or those kind of movies, and family classics. That's it. So he always watched that on Sundays at noon. So I was like, I'm not watching that. So I went up to my parents' bedroom, turned on the TV, and the Bears game was on. And it was the first time. It was the first year Walter was there, and I want to say it was '75. And I turned it on. And I was watching him run up and down the field, and it was really the first time I think I've ever really watched a Bears game more than 5 minutes. And it was it. It was love. I was like, holy moly, where have you been all my life, football? So that was it. And I have been a true blue, and if you know me, Bears fan, from then till now. Every season I have friends who say, so what do you think about this season? And I said, they're going to win. And my one friend's husband said, you say that every year. And I go, well, of course, I'm a Bears fan. If I were to sit down and do the numbers game, I can tell you right now, though, the sad truth is, I've seen more losses than I've seen wins throughout all these decades of being Bears fans. How many decades is it? 70s, 80s, 90s, about 4 decades, right? And, but I love them. I never give up. I get mad. I have friends who, when I used to work, in Illinois, they said they hated Monday mornings when the Bears lost because I came in just darn right cranky. And they said, we'd be like, they lost. Everybody keep their mouth shut. Don't talk about the Bears. So, but I do love them. Always will be a Bears fan. True blue Bears fans don't give up. I lived next to a neighbor when I lived in Lake Villa in Illinois, and he was a Packer fan, but he also liked the Bears. He said, I like them both. I said, you can't like them both. He's like, why not? I said, because a true fan, it's either Bears or the Packers. And if you're a Bears fan, no way are you rooting for the Packers, right? They're our arch enemy. No way. Bears all the way. So the only bad thing, a good bad thing, my son became a Bears fan, of course, right? I was pregnant with him when I was watching Bears game, and I kept talking to him and stuff, and he's a Bears fan. The bad thing is he's kind of turned into me where he gets really upset and really mad and down, and that's the part I feel bad about, because it's like, it is tough at the end of the day being a Bears fan sometimes, because as I said, they've let us down more than they haven't, okay? And we have seen a lot, but I don't know. So let's be positive. I'm thinking we're going to win. Let's hope we come out with no injuries. Last week we had no injuries, which was awesome, because there's a lot of big-time players on other teams that got hurt last week. So let's hope we stay healthy. Let's hope that Mitch keeps his cool and plays like he should, and we'll be all right. All right? So let's go, Bears. I will see you on Monday. And if they win, I'm singing the Bears song, but I got to start tweaking it because that is a really bad song. So thanks for sharing this time with me. If you ever want any information, I am going to start adding little segments. I should have done a show on Wednesday, but I didn't. And then we'll be talking. I was thinking about doing a segment of getting to know the players, just giving little tidbits about players. And so you get to know your players. So let's go, Bears. That one other thing. The thing is that worries me is that the Giants have the Bears numbers. If you've been a Bears fan, they beat us a lot in the past. Man, me and my son were just talking. There was one game, what was it, 7 years ago maybe? I think they sacked Cutler like 10 to 12 times. It was embarrassing. So they seem to have our number. Last year they beat us, and they shouldn't have. We should have won that game. Now there was an example of the Bears beating themselves, the last year's game with the Giants. So I'm staying positive because we've got to break that spell. So let's break that spell on Sunday and beat New York Giants. Goes Bears, and keep on rocking and rolling. And remember to love your fellow man, right?